Welcome to today's Psych with Sigmund, where we're going to dive into the fascinating world of behavioral economics and decision making. This concept is all about understanding how our thoughts, feelings, and environment influence the choices we make. From everyday decisions like what to eat for breakfast to major life choices like which career path to pursue, behavioral economics and decision making plays a crucial role in shaping our lives. To start, let's define what behavioral economics and decision-making is in simple terms. It's an interdisciplinary field that combines insights from psychology, economics, and neuroscience to understand how people make decisions. This concept emerged in the 1970s, when psychologists like Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky began to challenge traditional economic theories of rational choice. They showed that people don't always make rational decisions but are instead influenced by cognitive biases, emotions, and social norms. One of the key theoretical backgrounds for behavioral economics and decision-making is the concept of prospect theory. Developed by Kahneman and Tversky, prospect theory explains how people tend to be loss-averse, meaning they prefer to avoid losses rather than acquire gains. For example, if you're given a choice between a sure gain of 100 or a 50% chance of gaining 200, most people would choose the sure gain. However, if you're given a choice between a sure loss of $100 or a 50% chance of losing $200, most people would choose to take the risk and try to avoid the loss. Another important concept in behavioral economics and decision-making is the idea of framing effects. This refers to how the way information is presented influences our decisions. For instance, if a product is described as 90% fat-free, we're more likely to perceive it as healthy than if it's described as 10% fat. This is because our brains are wired to respond more strongly to positive frames than negative frames. Research has also shown that our emotions play a significant role in decision-making. For example, studies have found that people who are in a positive mood tend to be more optimistic and take greater risks, while those in a negative mood tend to be more cautious and risk-averse. Additionally, research on neuroeconomics has used functional magnetic resonance imaging to study the neural basis of decision-making. This has shown that different brain regions are activated when we're making decisions based on rational calculations versus emotional intuition. So, how can understanding behavioral economics and decision-making help us in our everyday lives? For one, it can help us make better financial decisions. By recognizing cognitive biases like confirmation bias or the sunk cost fallacy, we can avoid making costly mistakes. For instance, if you're considering investing in a stock, it's essential to do your research and consider multiple perspectives rather than just relying on your gut feeling. Therapeutic approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy also benefit from insights into behavioral economics and decision-making. By helping individuals identify and challenge distorted thought patterns that may lead to harmful decisions, therapists can design more effective interventions that nudge patients toward healthier choices. For example, a therapist might work with a patient to recognize how their fear of loss is driving them to make impulsive financial decisions and develop strategies to overcome this bias. In addition, understanding behavioral economics and decision-making can help us become better consumers. By recognizing biases like the default effect, we can make more informed choices about the products and services we use. For instance, if you're automatically enrolled in a retirement savings plan at work, you're more likely to contribute to it than if you have to opt in. Furthermore, behavioral economics and decision-making has important implications for public policy. By understanding how people make decisions, policymakers can design interventions that nudge people toward better choices without limiting their freedom of choice. For example, automatically enrolling employees in retirement savings plans while allowing them to opt out if they choose can significantly increase participation rates. As we conclude our exploration of behavioral economics and decision-making, Remember that understanding these psychological forces can empower you to make better decisions in your personal and professional life. It's about becoming more aware of the subtle influences that shape your choices and learning to navigate them wisely. To illustrate this, consider the concept of temptation bundling. This refers to the practice of combining a pleasurable activity with a productive one to increase motivation. For instance, listening to your favorite music or podcast while exercising can make the experience more enjoyable and increase the likelihood that you'll stick to your workout routine. By recognizing how our brains respond to rewards and punishments, we can design our environments to support positive habits and decisions. Another example is the use of implementation intentions. This involves specifying when and where you will perform a certain action, which can help bridge the gap between intention and behavior. For instance, if you want to start a new exercise routine, you might say to yourself, "If it's Monday, I will go to the gym at 7 a.m." By creating an implementation intention, you're more likely to follow through on your goal. Finally, let's talk about the concept of mental accounting. This refers to how we tend to treat different types of money differently, even though they have the same purchasing power. For example, if you're given $100 in cash versus a $100 gift card, you might be more likely to splurge on something frivolous with the gift card because it doesn't feel like real money. By recognizing how our brains use mental accounting to make decisions, we can avoid making costly mistakes and develop healthier financial habits. In conclusion, behavioral economics and decision-making is a powerful tool for understanding how our thoughts, feelings, and environment influence the choices we make. By recognizing cognitive biases, emotions, and social norms that shape our decisions, we can develop strategies to overcome them and make better choices in our personal and professional lives. So, the next time you're faced with a decision, take a step back and ask yourself, what are the underlying psychological forces at play? Are there any biases or emotions influencing my choice? By being more aware of these factors, you can make more informed decisions that align with your values and goals. Thanks for joining me on this journey into the world of behavioral economics and decision-making. If you want to learn more about this topic, I recommend checking out books like Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman or Nudge by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.